the structural engineer are following us, architects.
Yeah, the first
let's
one
say
to follow
closely,
us, yeah.
but what happens to MEP engineers and their calculation? So everybody said, okay, you can draw MEP in Archicad. You have MEP tools like 4 or 5 previous versions ago, but
even more than that.
Even more than that, yeah. It's integrated, but you don't have calculation. Now in DDScad you have calculation, you have everything.
Yeah, so maybe I can answer this question from 2 directions. So DDScad obviously is a very, very detailed MEP tool, so you can do whatever you wish with that, but it's also kind of a local solution. So it's localized for the Norwegian or other Northern European markets, as well as the German market. And for that, all of their calculations are very relevant and very to the detail. And that's why we are not really focusing on moving that DDScad solution to other markets. So for example, into the USA or Asia. What we are focusing right now is making sure that we can create such an MEP collaborative tool inside Archicad that could be a platform for this kind of solution. So in Archicad 27, what we did with the MEP solution is that we remade it and kind of turned it into a platform kind of solution, which can really have a great API that could be used by other solutions that they can build on top of that as an add-on to provide the necessary calculation for the local markets. So for example, we have this very basic, or not really basic, but this base solution of modeling and documentation inside Archicad for MEP. And if you are using it in the USA, you will use some kind of calculation add-on that is relevant for that market. If you are using it in Germany, you will using that kind of add-on that is relevant on that market. And this kind of way, it is building up from these base kind of elements and these puzzle add-on elements, and you can customize it however you wish. At least that is the long-term plan, obviously. So we only started to work on this in the past few years. So it's going to take a while to really get to that level, but we are already seeing some implementations of this, some add-ons creating for these new versions, and also obviously our modeling and documentation features that are growing day by day.
Yeah.
If
Zsolt is listening to this, please implement this in Serbian and Balkan region also. With these add-ons and then DDScad, it will be amazing for architects and for construction in Serbia and all other neighboring countries.
Yeah, I would say even globally, but especially in our region, what I said, I'm going to just iterate on that point, but it is really important for architects to work in teams, and we're constantly talking in this podcast about collaboration with different engineering professions. Because, like you said, working in architectural profession is about teamwork, and you're either working with your colleagues that are architects, but most of the time you're actually talking with other engineers because they know things that you don't, and it's completely impossible to finish any project without consultations with different engineering professions. So those professions, so we as architects have to be the shepherds in a way, and so sort of convert them and explain to them
onto the Jedi side.
Onto the Jedi side, onto the good. Yeah, exactly.
Good analogy.
And it's a good analogy actually. But I honestly believe in that because at the end of the day, you're making your job much easier. It's not just about us. If we're all connected in one platform, let's say, it will be much easier, and then we can start actually talking about solutions and not lose time on repetitive and redundant tasks, like converting these languages, like importing 2Ds and then going back to 3D, and it takes away your time. And instead of like, they get frustrated when you change something. You change something and they're like, oh no, I need to redraw this again.
Yeah, I can say for this, for example. So before joining Graphisoft, I was working as an MEP designer for 5 years. And it was always at the end of the projects when we realized, okay, the architects changed the whole bathroom again. And obviously the bathroom is full of pipes and kind of multiple MEP elements, and you have to redesign everything. And many times it was like just we received a new IFC or a new DVG, and you had to see what changed. And sometimes the architects didn't even say that, okay, we changed this or that, because they didn't know what is relevant for MEP engineers. With what we are doing with Archicad and all of the different disciplines working in the same software, obviously this is becoming much more easy, that you will be able to understand, okay, this changed, because the software will tell you that, okay, this is something that you have to take into account.
There's a very important feature there. Like the software is actually explaining to you have a clash here.
Yeah.
So he's trying to correct you.
Yeah, and also you can see it clearly which color is what, who is doing what. Structural engineer, MEP engineer,
and it's so cool when you see that in one software. Different. Everything is there. So cool.
Amazing.
And that can be simulated very well in academics, you know, because I mean, and especially now in Scandinavia and in the Benelux states, and in the Benelux states, we have these. We have a couple of universities who we collaborated with, and there's where I saw how they are giving this sort of little living lab or this mini experiment for their student groups. And if you suffer / experience those kind of frustrations and those kind of experiments at the university level with your university group, then you might have a different reaction, or you might have a better reaction once you face these sort of challenges in your professional work. And that's what we see often happening. And actually these simulated environments do happen through our tools and by little projects having, I wouldn't say role-playing games, but even architecture students taking on the roles of other disciplines to be able to simulate what their frustrations are during the design project, and then they understand it better, much more easily. So they develop some sort of empathy compared to the other disciplines in the design process. Plus, and that would be just within an architectural group, but we can extend that to either cross-university or inside the university, but cross-discipline collaboration projects, where they actually have a live they discovered this live workflow where they are working with a mechanical engineer or they are working with a structural engineer. When as in our university, my experience was that we did the architectural bit and then everything else was, outside of that, which is not really fortunate, because that will be your professional reality as well if you're more used to that. But once you learn that in academics, that there is a mechanical engineer who I could collaborate with, and that would have been awesome, Bálint, if we could have worked together, at our university, because that's what makes the projects way more real. I think that's sort of
at the later stage in the university, let's say 4th and 5th year, you can all engage in one synthesis project.
Yeah, you need to require you need to have a certain certain level of knowledge to be able to be successful in that sort of simulated work. But working in a thesis together, complementing each other, actually solving real problems, how interesting would that be?
Especially that would be super interesting. And that's why I think education has an extremely important role. But I'm not sure if they're aware of that potential. Because once you start seeing things in 3D, and that's where like BIM and software comes into play. It's one aspect when you start talking about it and you're trying to explain to someone, what am I doing? Then you maybe show him some drawing. But once you see it in 3D and when it's all connected together, you have this vision that it's, I think, for me, is as a student, if I kind of saw that, it would be very, very, very kind of appealing. And also what you mentioned, the thesis, or maybe working on some projects together towards the end, or making a thesis with a structural engineer.
Yeah, amazing.
That would be really amazing.